Welcome to On the Firing Line on the information station, AM 1440 KUHL. Information, education, news, and politics of firearms and ammunition is found here. If you have any questions, call us at 1-888-625-1440. That's 1-888-625-1440.
In 1954, in response to the communist threat of the times, President Eisenhower encouraged Congress to add the words, "under God," creating the 31-word pledge we say today. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You are on the firing line with Joe, Matt, and Kanani. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440. Or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, give us a call at 928-1440. So, what's happening, guys?
Oh, we are back. I hope everybody's 4th of July was as great as ours.
I know. I kind of wish I could say I'll just say a happy 4th of July, even though it's a day late and a dollar short, you know.
We're still on the 3-day 4th of July weekend, right?
I still mean it, gosh darn it. So, yeah, hopefully everybody out there had a good time and continues to have a good time this weekend. Safe, remain with all 10 digits intact, and, hopefully it was all good.
All right, today's show will be about Red Skelton's Pledge of Allegiance. It's something we've done on the show before, but it was time to bring it back up. It's time for us to reiterate the ideals that come with that pledge. Also, we have updates on Senate Bill 53 and AB 1964. And we would like to talk about the division of America caused by political ideology. I think that's something that kind of leads to where we're at today, especially with firearms and many other things that affect us in the everyday life here in America.
That's a good point. I think it's such an everyday life that gets affected by, whatever I'm going to call it an agenda, even, because that's ultimately what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Whatever church it is, they all have their agendas. But yeah, they hold a lot of weight, and especially in this country, all over the world, really.
Reminds me of the Chinese that say, we don't have to do it today or tomorrow. We can wait. We'll just wait and wait and wait, and finally it'll happen.
And finally our kids will do it.
Right. And it's happening. Straight out of the 60s.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and start this thing off with.
Yeah, Pledge of Allegiance.
The Pledge of Allegiance by Red Skelton. This was actually written in January 14th of 1969.
Up-to-date stuff.
And I've seen it. You can go on YouTube and watch it. It's a little black and white clip. But it's something that even like what our forefathers wrote, it's something that kind of spans time. And the way that this was done, it means so much. So we're going to go ahead and read it just like it was. When I was a small boy in Indiana, I heard, I think, one of the most outstanding speeches I've ever heard in my life. I think it compares with the sermon on Mount Lincoln's Gettysburg Address and Socrates' speech to the students. We had just finished reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and he called us all together. This is his teacher he's talking about. Boys and girls, I've been listening to you recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester, and it seems to me that it has become monotonous to you. Or could it be you do not understand the meaning of each word? If I may, I'd like to recite the pledge and give you a definition for each word. You got to figure this is a teacher in
1969, I believe.
Well, actually, long before 1969. It was in the 30s.
Yep.
So this man is already an adult. He probably grew up with the Pledge of Allegiance, of course, a little bit different than what we read it today.
Right.
But yet, it was something. If we can understand what our grandparents and their parents, how they thought of the Pledge of Allegiance, how they thought of America, I think that we get a little bit more out of this. And of course, during this, they added the part of God in there, and so we get a little bit more out of it. And there's meaning even behind that, for most of us, anyways. So let's go ahead and start this. And this is going to be a breakdown of the Pledge of Allegiance. He started with the word I, which means me, an individual, a committee of one. And then there's pledge, Dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity. Allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of courage, and whenever she waves, there is respect because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts, freedom is everyone's job. Of the United States, that means that we all have come together.
All right. So real quick, I mean, just to kind of break it into a section here, you know, we have I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United, of the United States.
Right.
And states is a different part that kind of ties in together. You're going to get into it now, but you know, that's just, to me, that's the core value of it right there. You know, we're pledging to the flag of the United States, and that's just for me, my personal, what I'm saying. You know, that's kind of the strong part of it to me.
It is, and you know, I was at my son's graduation the other day, and I think I told you this a couple weeks ago, where there were a couple of gentlemen that were just standing there talking while the Pledge of Allegiance was going on. And to me, I found it to be very disrespectful, and it irritated a little bit because I don't think that they understand or grasp what that means and how important it is that when the Pledge of Allegiance is being spoken, that we pay attention to it. Because that pledge is something that we should all partake in to make this country great and to continue making it great. We as the body of people are the only thing that can make this country great. And it's the words that we say and the actions that we do that represent all of that.
Yep. And, you know, the kids that, you know, nowadays that, you know, especially graduating junior high school and high school and stuff, you know, they're in the very near future are going to become the future of this country. And if they don't start thinking about these things and instilling these in themselves, you know, how are they going to take that into the future of where they're going to take this country, and then for their own kids as well, you know. By the time that their kids, you know, your kids are in school, is there even going to be a Pledge of Allegiance?
I don't think they even say it now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's such a minimal lack. I mean,
I think there are a lot of schools that still say it.
I don't think that they have to. It's not like when we were in school and every morning, boom, everybody stood up, you know, for 30 seconds on the announcements. Yeah. You do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then you go through the day. I don't think it's anything like that now. It's probably the school has the choice to say, you know, and beyond that, they probably have a choice to butcher it and say what they want. You know, especially when it comes to the, you know, adding God into it and stuff. That's a rocky part for schools.
Well, I think it's a shame because this is a indoctrination to being American.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as we have people that come into America without going through the system. And those people that do that, they shortcut something. They shortcut and give up something themselves because then they're bringing ideals without understanding what American ideals are. And that tears apart what America is because they need to understand where America came from, why we are here, why it is the greatest nation, and why the ideals that we represent are so great that so many people are willing to take the time and go through the system. Yeah, granted, there was a time, a very short time in America's history where you could walk across the border without having to register or do anything. But it changed very quickly, and that's because they saw a need for that. That need is still strong today, and we do need people to go through the system so that they can be indoctrinated, to understand, you know, our constitutional rights and understand what the constitutional rights mean. These are things that aren't even really being taught in school with full-fledged...
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're barely being... saying the tip of the iceberg is probably... They're not even teaching that much.
Right. It's a shame. Well, let's go on.
Yeah, so we're at the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states, 48 individual communities with pride, dignity, and purpose, all divided by imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common cause, and that's love of country, of America, and to the republic, a sovereign state in which power is invested into its representatives, chosen by the people to govern. And the government is the people, and it's from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people.
Yeah, then you think they're forgetting that a little bit right now?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
We totally see the division now in politics to where we lose that. And it's amazing how we've lost touch, you know? It's
Big
just
time.
It's crazy.
Big time.
But here we go. For which it stands, one nation, meaning so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom, the right of power for one to live his own life without fears, threats, or any sort of retaliation. And that, my friends, is something that we see every day, especially here in California. And we see now even within our presidency. We see that there are fears and threats, and there is retaliation if you do not.
I was just thinking that exactly. I mean, you just said it. There's fears, there are blatant threats, and just, for instance, whatever it is, if you don't do this, there's retaliation. And a lot of times around here, it's harsh retaliation for something that wasn't that big of a deal.
Well, think of this, the IRS scandal.
Right.
That is retaliation right there. Yeah, that's scary. What has happened to America? I mean, granted, we've always had our ups and downs, and right now we're in a pretty good down.
I miss America.
America. And justice, the principles and qualities of dealing fairly with others. For all, that means, boys and girls, it's as much your country as it is mine. Now let me hear you recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, since I was a small boy, 2 states have been added to our country, and 2 words have been added to the Pledge of Allegiance, under God. Wouldn't it be a pity if someone said that is a prayer, and that should be eliminated from our schools too?
And that's just like what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It already has been in some places, and it's going to be in others. And it's, for me, the under God part isn't the thing that makes or breaks the Pledge of Allegiance.
I think that our Pledge of Allegiance, our Constitution, and our ideals are so bound up with God, as it should be. It's not that our government should implement one way of believing in God. It's that we should believe in God in so many ways because we have so much in diversity here in America. And that was something that they wanted. Think of this. Can you imagine if Sharia law was here? That's something that, as Americans, we literally cannot imagine that. I mean, being controlled like that. Right.
And some people might say, well, what, you think you're not controlled? Not like that, we're not.
Right, not to that extreme.
Right. So to say something that drastic, I can't imagine it. No.
And Sharia law would instill that you would have to believe in God one way. So we can't have things like that. We can't have religious groups ruling neighborhoods, cities, towns, anything in America. It's something that we have to keep a separation from. Never was it supposed to be that we were supposed to keep God, the Word, or believing in God out of our churches. I mean, out of our state and capitol buildings or any of our any of our decrees that we have out there and laws and everything else. It's ridiculous. And it breaks my heart to see this kind of stuff happening.
All right. I mean, I understand it. It's just, tomato.
I don't know.
Well, we've been talking a lot about things that bring everyone together. We've talked about the flag, and we've talked about the Star-Spangled Banner, and now we're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance. And giving that description of what each of those words means, which you can just look up in a dictionary. It's not that difficult. It means so much more to bring everyone together to know that we are all here to pledge to our country as a whole, and that we live in a country that is governed by ourselves, and that is what we stand together to defend against for the rest of the world.
Very well put.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like I think kids that are saying this now need the Cliff Notes to kind of understand what they're saying.
Yeah, it's not just
we need
blah,
the
blah, blah, blah,
Kanani notes, the constitutional Kanani notes.
And with that being said, I think that it's important that we as adults set the example for our children. When we see the flag, we should stop and think about it. And we should have our children see us stopping to ponder on it. Mm-hmm. When it's time for the Star-Spangled Banner to be sung or to hear the Pledge of Allegiance, we should stop and take that moment to listen to it and show our children that we are giving it its due, because it is an oath and it is a representation of this country as a whole. Maybe the words don't fit exact, but the whole ideal of it is American, and it is American. We have to stand by it. We can't let these things be forgotten.
It's part of our tradition.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's...
I was going to say, like, we can think back, I mean, to this analogy, it kind of goes with a lot of things. Like, after 9/11, for example, how America was strong. We were together, without any question. Ball games and stuff, the flag then, when that was raised, there was 100% respect from every attendee, and... just, a little more than a few years, but not too far down the road. Here we are, and some of that is deteriorating.
That should be in every day,
right. And we're supposed to, never forget what happened. And I think by losing respect for these type of things is edging towards forgetting.
We're kind of taking it for granted that it's always going to be there.
Very
and then
much
when
so.
And then when 9/11 happened, everybody knew immediately,
realized,
oh my gosh, like this could really be threatened, and we really need to stick together.
Yep. And great things happen, when people stuck together. It's amazing to see, but so quickly people forget how to just, stick together, and then their small issues become more important than the big ones, and it deteriorates.
It's a shame that like the Black Ops teams and in different groups that protect America, they keep a lot of the incidents that could threaten us a secret from us, the public. When in fact, these things should be brought out every time something like that comes out. Granted, if they have to hold on to the information for a little while so they can capitalize on the information, so be it. But then it should be brought out so that we can see, look, this is under threat. And we should be able to go to our medias and have them presenting it and not having that stuff buried so that we can understand that there is a threat. There is an ideology that's trying to take over. And what do we have to do to protect it? What do we have to do to make sure that our children will stand to protect it so that their children will have the chance to have it too?
Yeah, but you don't have to go far to realize what's going on. I mean, you got to do a little bit of research, but it doesn't take a whole lot, and I understand that not taking much is taking way too much for most people, but you can go out there and find it. It's there.
All right, on that note, we should probably take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to give you an update on Senate Bill 53 and also AB 64. Yes. So we'll be right back with you on the firing line. Don't go away.
You're listening to On the Firing Line on the Information Station.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We'll be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building an AR-15, they have lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies and stuff.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes and have trained thousands of local ladies.
The store is located off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit. Look for the big rifle sign on the freeway as well as the giant 5-ton Tactical military truck, and they're now open on Mondays. America!
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352, serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
Now a great word from Santa Maria Motorcycles, formerly Santa Maria Harley-Davidson, located at 2022 Presker Lane. They are dealers for Honda, Kawasaki, and Harley-Davidson. Grab your family and go see the museum, filled with exciting older bikes that you won't see anywhere else on the Central Coast. As well, they are the #1 motorcycle dealer on the Central Coast with the largest inventory around. Go in and see Martin Buchanan, or you can give him a call at 805-928-3668. You can also go visit them every first Thursday of the month for Bike Night. Starts at 6 p.m. Have a great time with your family at Santa Maria Motorcycles.
We're happy to have a special guest here today at the Plumbing Talk Studios, Jeremy Griffin. owner of Griffin Plumbing in Orchard. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, Jeremy, the reason your plumbing company is called Griffin Plumbing is that your last name is in fact Griffin.
Yeah, that's right.
Unbelievable! Griffin, just like the legendary creature with the body of a lion and the wings of an eagle.
Yeah.
What a brilliant move, Jeremy.
I'm a genius.
To name your plumbing company after this majestic creature. A creature known not only to have divine power, but also to be a protector from all things evil.
Well, it is my last name.
Audience, listen carefully. If your plumbing devices are threatened in any way, I implore you to seek the power and protection of the Griffin.
We're always here to help. Just give us a call.
Call the Griffin.
Find us at callgriffinplumbing.com or call 934-1949.
You are on the firing line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, please give us a call at 928-1440. That's right, you are back on the firing line. Well, very enthusiastic, man.
Very. That's good.
But yeah, give us a call, 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local area, 928-1440, and tell us what you think as we progress through the program today.
Please. We do like those phone calls. All right. Senate Bill 53 is amended by De Leon, which is the ammunition purchase permits.
And these things are so ridiculous.
Don't you love this? How do you like the idea of getting a permit and only buying an ammunition from a licensed vendor?
It's almost like you're not permitted to buy ammunition.
Hey, leave a thumbprint behind. Make sure you've got a special little card that says you're part of the group that can buy ammunition.
Part of the group.
And make sure that information's stored somewhere for 5 years. I think that's the gist of it all. But we'll go ahead and read it anyways.
Yeah. Just like we'll go ahead and get ammo other ways.
Well, and that's just it. They're saying it'll be a misdemeanor for you to go across the state or to order it from somebody online. You're going to have to go into a store.
But how do they know that you bought that ammo someplace else?
You know what'll probably happen is they'll bully or threaten the vendors that don't have these permits.
Yep.
And fine them for sending ammunition into the state, or who knows?
It's a good point.
It's a good question.
There's
How
all
will they find
kinds
out?
of. I mean, there's other online companies that have bullied by California that they won't even sell
Right.
stocks into California, because they're collapsible and they don't know if that's legal or not because they don't. How can you possibly follow all
And
these?
who wants to be the first person to test the water? Are
Yeah,
you gonna
exactly.
test the water?
No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Does this apply to reloads?
Yes,
Wuss.
it does apply to reloads as well. All right. Existing law requires the Attorney General to maintain records, fingerprints, licenses to carry concealed firearms, and information from firearms dealers pertaining to firearms for purposes of assisting in the investigation of crimes. This bill would require the Attorney General to also maintain copies of ammunition purchase permits, information about ammunition transactions, and ammunition vendor licenses for those purposes. Existing law establishes the Prohibited Armed Persons File, the purpose of which is to cross-reference persons prohibited from possessing firearms. Under existing law, a person who is prohibited from owning or possessing a firearm is prohibited from owning or having under his or her custody or control any ammunition or reloaded ammunition.
Right.
So that's to show that, yes, reloaded will be involved in this.
Okay.
The bill would commence July 1st of 2016 and will use the Prohibited Armed Persons File to cross-reference those persons with records of ammunition transactions to determine if those persons have acquired or attempted to acquire ammunition. And they kind of do that now with firearms. Well, not kind of, they do. If you're a felon and you try to buy a gun and you're turned down because, hey, you're a felon, that information is turned over to the DA, and the DA will stop by a gun store, grab the paperwork, and they have copies of his signature, copies of his licenses.
Yeah, it's all right there.
Right.
I mean, it's
Whether
it
they
is the smoking
do
gun.
anything with that information is a whole other story. Do they have the manpower to go after all these people? I don't think so. Not even with all the money they collect now.
Right.
It also says here, existing law, subject to exceptions, require that the delivery or transfer of ownership of handgun ammunition occur only in face-to-face transactions and makes it a violation of this requirement a crime.
So that's an online thing.
Yes. July 1st of 2016, only a licensed ammunition vendor may sell ammunition. An existing law prohibits an ammunition vendor from allowing a person the vendor knows or should know is a person who is prohibited from possessing firearms for specified reasons from handling, selling, or delivering handgun ammunition in the course and scope of their employment. This bill would extend those prohibitions to any ammunition. The bill would provide that a violation of those provisions is a misdemeanor. You know, I'm kind of curious about any ammunition. Does that mean BBs? Does that mean
But this is talking
pellets?
about from people who are prohibited from possessing firearms anyhow.
They shouldn't be buying ammunition.
They can't have that regardless.
And if
so
those-
what are they talking about as far as you, me, and the rest of us who can own guns? Because all this stuff is saying for people that are prohibited from owning firearms, then they can't have these ammunition things.
But if they're already getting guns illegally, then why are they buying legal ammunition?
Well, exactly, because yeah, that's a
Because
good
I want a
point.
paper trail shows that I'm a felon and I'm legit.
I don't know. It seems very weird to me.
Oh, here's another thing. This one is the one that gets me out of that statement, okay? It says, let's see here. A vendor knows or should know is a person who is prohibited from possessing firearms for specific reasons. So it's on us. We
Right.
have to know. Well, you should have known that he shouldn't have ammunition. How am I supposed to make that determination?
Yeah, there's no crystal ball at the counter, like we've said before. We don't know anything. Even if they get denied from a purchase, we still don't know. We just know that they got denied from that purchase. We have no idea what for, why, how. I mean, it doesn't really matter to us anyway. I mean,
Think of this. Are we going to end up having to go through a 10-day waiting period for ammunition?
I wonder.
Oh my goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Well, then if they do that, then no one's going to go through a 10-day wait for a 50-round box. It's going to be 10-day waits for thousands of rounds.
This is very
So
big
is it a
possibility.
Pandora's box type thing?
This bill would, commencing July 1st, 2017, and subject to exemptions, require the purchaser of ammunition to be authorized to purchase ammunition by the Department of Justice as specified. The bill would, commencing July 1st of 2017, authorize issuance of ammunition purchase authorizations by the Department of Justice to applicants who are at least 18 years of age, not prohibited from acquiring or possessing ammunition, and who pay the required fees as specified.
Wowzers.
So you will pay and get a permit.
Oh, you will.
You will pay. Sounds like a good Metallica song. You will pay. Now get back to the front.
I'm curious why they just didn't add this on to like a handgun safety card.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. But it's probably, if they can charge for a handgun safety card and they can charge for an ammunition, whatever, not a permit,
Oh yeah, they'll do it.
they can make twice as much money.
Yeah.
Why not?
And it's just another way of hampering. If you have to spend more
Yep.
money, then
It's-
that's going to keep somebody out
Exactly.
there
For
from buying.
new shooters that, they look into it, to buy a new gun, ammo, safety equipment. It's not cheap to get into it. This is just another hurdle, making it that much more difficult for somebody who has the desire to learn, and they're making it that much harder for them to learn. So all that comes into play, and I don't like seeing that.
No. It's kind of funny. As of 2016, ammunition vendors will have to be licensed to sell ammunition. But yet it's 2017 when the people will have to have their cards. So
Yeah, that's-
they're kind of like, here, we'll start this, and then a year later we'll get
We'll
the
see
rest
how
of it
that
going.
goes, and if it, yeah.
They've already tried this. I remember in Pasadena reading a story about Pasadena where the police were going around grabbing information from the local vendors who were buying handguns and buying ammunition. And it was specifically on ammunition. And so the police would stop by, pick up the information, take it back and process it somehow. And the police ended up stopped doing it. They said it wasn't cost effective and it didn't help them solve crimes.
Derp. Yeah, I mean,
Derp.
how would it help solve a crime ultimately? I don't really. It's not like when you scan a barcode on a box of ammo, does it register all 50 rounds immediately? No, it doesn't tie it together at all. So if you're registering this box to person A, and the rounds are you can't tell if it came from box A or box Z. It's irrelevant.
Well, that's true. I mean, all you know is that a criminal bought some ammo if he pops up on the radar.
Right.
And I think it kind of goes back to what Kanani said earlier. that, hey, oh God, now I'm having brain freeze all of a sudden. But criminals are not going to buy it legally. They're just going to go get it out of somebody's garage, buy it from the homie down the street who has a stock of it because his crews have been out robbing houses and they have a whole stock full of it.
Well, I was wondering if, like what you said, Matt, that people are not going to be waiting around for a 50-round box, but they're going to buy them in the thousands. Maybe that's the way to look at people who are buying mass quantities of ammunition.
Yeah, because
Somehow,
it'll bottleneck that group a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah.
But you notice they always bring up these people who do school killings. It's always like they had thousands and thousands and thousands of rounds and tons of loaded magazines.
It makes them more evil news story.
Yeah.
You know, if so and so has 400 rounds in his car, they're playing it off like he was ready to kill 400 people. You know, well, maybe the person was, but that's usually never the case.
Never.
You know? But that's how they anytime they can get just like when they do drug busts, the higher the numbers, the better it looks on the news. So I can imagine it's got to be the same difference, you know?
It's all BS, and it's propaganda to get us to be afraid. You know, so ultimately the goal is they're going to take away our firearms. And why? Because it is a political party that does not want us to have firearms. They believe in a different type of America. And let's put it, plain and simple. It's we have the Democrats and we have the Republicans. And what are the Democrats now?
They're in power right now.
They're in power. But also, what are they? Aren't they closer to the Communist Party than they've ever been before?
I cannot say these words on the radio. Well, no, but it's true. Yeah, I mean, it's a thin line.
It's like this. There used to be Democrats and Republicans. Both of them were strong-hearted Americans for the most part. Now the Republican Party has gone so far, I mean, the Democratic Party has gone so far to the other side that they're progressives. And progressives, you go look it up in the dictionary. It's a communist ideal.
Yeah.
Hello? That's an agenda right there.
Well, it all is. It all is.
That agenda is for what? What are we going to gain out of that ourselves? And you know what? Most of us are not going to realize what it does until after it's in place, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
Try kicking that out.
I'm going to jump back a little bit. So it says is for the ammunition that we would need to have our licenses by 2017, but people selling it need to have it by 2016.
Correct.
When is the new firearm safety card coming into play?
That should be next year.
2015.
Right.
Okay, and what that does is it gets rid of the handgun safety card, and now every gun you buy, you need to have a card.
Right.
And it will be called a firearms card instead of a handgun card, basically.
Approximately, yeah.
Okay.
And
so that's just
again,
another
that's just
thing.
another way to make more money so that they can use, the DOJ can use that to go out and go after the people that are doing wrong things.
Well, yeah, right. But just think of everybody the handgun safety cards are good for 5 years. Think of everybody who has them or recently has them. You just spent the $35, you're good for 5 years. And now next year, bang, you got to buy a new one. The one you just bought that's good for 5 years is now void. And is this new one going to be good for a year? Is it going to, who knows? I mean, I just see it as another, potential way to, just obviously get more money and not do it in a very nice way.
Right.
Not that they ever do.
This bill has passed, and it's that was the Assembly Public of Safety. It passed there, and there was 5-2. The only two that voted against it was Waldron and Melendez. The rest who did vote for it was, Amiano, Joynes, Sawyer, Quirk, Skinner, and Stone.
But that was just the committee, right? The safety committee. So it still actually has to go to the
still has a little
assembly.
bit further to go.
Yeah.
Unlike the next bill that we're going to talk about, that's actually on the governor's desk, and that would be AB 964, written by Dickinson, and it's the unsafe handguns, single-shot pistols. Okay, so they have a list, a roster of certified guns for sale in California. In order for you to purchase a gun, it has to be okayed on this list as a gun that's deemed safe for you because the manufacturer has submitted it to a company who would run it through tests, and after those tests are done, it would be deemed safe or not safe.
Yep. Acceptable.
Most manufacturers are not supplying any more guns to this program because the program has gotten so out of hand that now to have any gun added to that list, any new gun, it would have to have micro stamping, and in 2 years it'll have to have owner identification, which would be like a thumbprint or something like that.
So wild.
It's crazy. The technology is...
It's not there, but it's like such wishful thinking. You know, I mean, I understand that they came out with that one gun that had the smart touch, whatever. Yeah, it pretty much flopped. It failed. I think they literally came out with 3 of them. So, I mean, but this is where it's going, though.
Well, it's just another way of circumventing our rights. Because the truth of the matter is, why should any company retool their machines for one small market, or maybe not so small?
It's a large market, but we're still one state.
One state, out of all the other states of America. Why should they do that? It makes no sense to do that.
Right. And it's unfortunate. We've talked about it before. It's good on them for saying, hey, you're pushing too hard, you're infringing clearly, and so we're not going to be a part of this. The fallout is that us citizens, we don't get the pick of, the amount of guns that we can pick from is a very limited stock.
Some politicians been watching Judge Dredd too many times.
Well, if they're looking to have a utopia, then they want to get rid of those guns, and they have to. And if they can test it in California and it's successful, then they can push it on the rest of the United States.
If it works here, it'll work everywhere.
That's right.
That's absolutely crazy. All right, I'm going to do over a quick couple of paragraphs, and then we'll take a quick break. But before I do take that break, AB 1964, existing law provides for the testing of handguns and requires the Department of Justice to maintain a roster listing all handguns that are determined not to be safe or not to be unsafe handguns. Existing law makes it a crime punishable by imprisonment in a county jail not exceeding 1 year. To manufacture, import into the state for sale, keep for sale, offer or expose for sale, give or lend an unsafe handgun. Existing law makes the provisions defining and governing unsafe handguns inapplicable to a single-shot pistol, as specified. The bill would instead make the provisions defining and governing unsafe handguns inapplicable to a single-shot pistol with a break top or bolt action. The bill would make this exemption inapplicable to a semi-automatic pistol that has been temporarily or permanently altered so that it would not fire in a semi-automatic mode. By expanding the definition of a crime, this bill would impose a state-mandated local program.
So what's the end to the means for this one?
Honestly...
I mean, the only thing I can possibly see would be things like an AR pistol.
Right, AR pistol. Well, no, because there are people that are doing single shot for the guns that we know are safe but are not on the list.
No, exactly. 100% I agree with you, but... Well, shoot, I guess I disagree with this whole thing. I agree with you fully. I redact my previous.
I mean, can you imagine? HK-45, not on the list. HK's not submitting anymore. But if I own it, it's deemed an unsafe gun because it hasn't been submitted?
Just because it's not on the list doesn't make it suddenly unsafe.
Right. Especially, like, for instance, like the Smith & Wesson M&Ps that have been safe for 5 years, but they're unsafe this month.
Because they're not on the list
Because
anymore.
they're not on the list anymore.
And if I have one and expose it for sale because I...
now you're distributing unsafe goods, and that's unsafe.
Oh, my gosh. This is ridiculous.
All right, well, you guys stew on that one for a minute, and we'll be right back with you with more On the Firing Line.
We'll be back to more of On the Firing Line with Joe and Jim after this.
This is On the Firing Line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. We'll be right back with you on the firing line. If you have any questions, give us a call at 888-625-1440 or in the Santa Maria area, 928-1440. Don't forget, you can always listen in on am1440.com.
Tactical Guns and Gear is the Central Coast leader in tactical rifles, pistols, shotguns, and accessories. Building an AR-15, they have lower receivers, parts kits, trigger groups, and a ton of other AR parts from the most popular companies and stuff.
They are also the home of the Women's 101 Firearms and Women's Advanced Pistol classes and have trained thousands of local ladies.
The store is located off the 101 freeway in Santa Maria near the North Broadway exit. Look for the big rifle sign on the freeway as well as the giant 5-ton Tactical military truck, and they're now open on Mondays. America!
On the Firing Line is happy to have Law Offices of Christopher Coleman as a sponsor. The Law Offices of Christopher Coleman is located in Santa Barbara on 2019B State Street, specializing in personal injury and, more importantly, the Second Amendment and On the Firing Line with Matt and Joe. Give them a call at 805-682-3352. serving the Santa Barbara, Santa Maria, and San Luis Obispo areas for over 25 years.
On the air with the Midnight Mystic is one of our regular callers, truck driver Charlie.
Boy, I just seen another one, Midnight Mystic.
Another griffin, Charlie?
I'm telling you, they're all over the Central Coast now.
How long have you been on the road now, Charlie?
2, 5, 8 weeks, I don't know.
Perhaps you should park the truck and get some sleep, and maybe the griffins will disappear.
Well, there it is again. I'm going after it.
What does it look like, Charlie?
Holy mackerel. It's got the body of a lion and the head of an eagle.
Is it flying, Charlie?
It's on the side of a white truck.
Is it a Griffin plumbing truck, Charlie?
Could be. I don't know. I'm pulling right up to it.
We seem to have lost contact with Charlie, but I'm sure he'll be okay because Griffins, just like the good folks at Griffin Plumbing, are here to protect and serve. In fact, if your plumbing devices are threatened in any way,
Call the Griffin.
Find us at callgriffinplumbing.com or call 934-1949.
You are on the firing line with Matt, Jim, and Joe. Be a part of today's show by calling in at 1-888-625-1440, or if you're in the local Santa Maria area, please give us a call at 928-1440.
You are on the firing line with Joe, Matt, and Kanani. Be a part of today's show by calling 888-625-1440, or if you're here in our local area, call 928-1440.
That's
so,
right.
What are we talking about on our last segment? You got it, Matt?
Whoa, bro. All right. Polarization is dividing American society, not just politics. Did you know that?
No, it's ideology.
Oh, that's what's going on here?
I think so. What do you think?
Well, I'm not paid to think.
I mean, we talked. Neither am I. As a matter of fact, I pay other people so I can think. It's funny how that works. Wow.
Yep.
But, okay. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance that we read earlier. Indivisible, right? Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
Yeah, well,
Indivisible?
Will not be broken apart.
Yeah.
What do we have in America today by ideology? Coming from politics.
Are you sure it's coming from politics, or is not the ideals becoming politicized?
Ooh.
Okay, so then the ideology has taken over the politics and are now asserting their will upon us through politics.
Yes.
And that makes sense.
Unfortunately.
How do we educate the people to see it through the same eyes as we do? Do we reinstall as much of our heritage and our grandparents' ideology as we can, or I mean, what are we going to do? Do we just let this keep happening? Because right now, if it keeps going down this road, America is going to become so divided that we're going to have two American countries.
Oh God, Civil War II.
Right.
Yeah, and I think you're on the right path with the whole Greatest Generation. Our grandparents. I mean, they pretty much had it right with this type of stuff. Maybe we need to come up with a new, something new for this generation that's the same set of morals, but something people can get on board with a little bit differently.
But how do we do that? We can't go out and have McCarthyism all over again, right?
Well, that's the thing. That's the million-dollar question: is how to do it. But
maybe we do need some McCarthyism, but just not so extreme.
You heard it here.
So you want then now the current generation to have something to bond together that is American, that would provide them that foundation to be...
Foundation and the value, yeah, exactly. Something that... Yeah, just something that they could get on board with, so they're not just learning about the past, even though that's very important, but something that they can get on right now that is a good idea or fun or whatever interesting to younger people. Instead of, because we can always refer back, Greatest Generation this and that.
But what did the Greatest Generation have? Was it their
close
their
in
history,
ideals,
or did it come from their experiences that they lived through?
Experience, and I think it was a lot of their experiences. It came
from the hardships that they had to work through and live through. It came from their parents and grandparents telling them, this is where we came from and what we lived in to get here so that we can have the opportunities here.
Yeah, here's what you have to do to succeed. Mm-hmm. And what that entailed was a lot of hard work. Now I don't think that message gets through.
It doesn't. Well, and I'll tell you another thing. To get younger generations involved, we need to give them more choices. Believe it or not, because
I'm with you.
when we send them off to college and to high school, they're getting indoctrinated without all the choices. And I think that if we had more professors saying, okay, here's this ideology, here's this ideology, here's this. Now you decide. And think of this when you make that decision. This is America, and this is what America was built on.
Yeah.
Different ideas. And people coming together to...
Exactly. And I think I think you're on the right track, Joe. I mean, because it's going back to like how America is built and what we are really, I mean, everybody's different ideas was taken and it balled into America basically. So
instead, now we have people like Ayers in college and his wife teaching us, well, I'm not proud of America. I don't like America. And well, hey, rise up and kill cops. Hey, there's an ideology you can follow.
So then maybe the question to counteract that is, why isn't that the right way to go about it?
Why isn't it happening? Or maybe I misunderstood. I mean...
Well, if we're looking to have our current generation come together and there are ideas that we want them to think about that are different from what our current politics are, then instead of, I guess, maybe forcing or instead of listening to what they have out there, like your college professors, as being the right way, what then would be the counter argument to what they're saying? Like, if we should all go out and kill cops and, revolution in the streets, why wouldn't that be the right way of thinking? If you want to challenge them to come up with their own.
Think of this. Let's use their own words against them. They speak of love, not hate, but yet they spew hate. For instance, you have to be accepting and love all people, whether they're gay or not gay, for one, okay, homosexual or not. But yet, as soon as your ideal is different from homosexuality, they spew hate at you. You're a hater, which, as we talked about before, the first person that screams prejudice is usually the prejudiced person. Well, the first person that screams, that guy's a hater, is the hater.
Nine
it's
times
kind of like
out of 10,
on the bus, the first guy that says, the first guy that smelt it, dealt it. Just to lighten it up a little bit.
Got to keep it light.
Right? So... that's a good point. It's I want to build more on that. You're right, Jim. We should build more on that point. But how do we? I mean,
I didn't want to bug you guys
have
today.
To bug in.
But the truth of it is that we're not giving people a real true choice. Let's just say the Ten Commandments, for instance. Let's just say that. Do you know that it's etched in the walls of the United States Supreme Court?
Right.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
So you get to see it, and you get to read it, and you get to decide, do I believe it or not?
Right.
But if you take that away,
then people don't have the choice anymore.
They don't even know it exists.
Right.
So I don't think, like Kanani was saying, I don't think what we're doing, the correct thing is giving people a choice. Not to come up, and you're absolutely correct about the haters. That's very, very, very true. The one that's going to, because you have an ideal or you say something, and you say it in a way that they're determining in their mind, you're the hate. But in actuality, hate exists in them.
Right. Use the Supreme Court thing. These people say, well, I can't stand the fact that these people love God and they want this to be ruling over me. Well, maybe it's a word of guidance. And why do you have to hate that?
Why not just tell what like you just did? And I've seen that. Matter of fact, I seen that live because I used to watch Red Skelton. Boy, I'm old. And I seen him do it. I remember he did it in the Clyde Cadill Hopper hat and the whole thing, And I remember doing it. And I remember being proud to be an American. For some reason, it fed into my spirit.
Yeah.
Not, my spirit of who I am. I'm an American.
Right.
Well, I should be an American. Now, you mentioned Ayers this week.
Right.
This is a criminal. This is a man that killed people. He bombed places. He did things wrong. Now he's teaching in academia. There's nothing to deter him now.
Right. Where's the choice?
There is none.
Your
That's
choice
what
is
we're
anarchy.
saying.
We'll love
That's
it
what
or
we're
leave
saying.
it.
Isn't it wild? Do you know, this is my last thing I want to say. But you guys make up a great point, and it gets me going. Is that, do you know what the first thing we did as Americans? When we first got together and created the Constitution, you know what the first thing we did? We prayed for 3 hours to make sure we were right. Now, did they say, okay, all of us are going to meet down in the middle, and we're all going to pray? No, they said, hey, you know what? Maybe we should pray. And they just did that, right?
You know, it's interesting. You say pray. It's not like, hey, we have to all sit down and pray
Right.
to one specific God. Even if it's meditation or anything, sit down, ponder the thought.
Ponder what we just happened to us.
Right.
What we just did. Is it right? Is it wrong? Give us a choice of. But really, right now, in actuality, we don't have choice. You don't have a choice to decide whether or not you're going to buy these shells that you've been speaking on all day, because the government's telling you, no, you got to do this. And when you do that to people, it polarizes them.
Absolutely. And the hate builds on both
course,
sides.
on both
That's
sides.
just the way it
On
works.
both sides.
It's kind of like Star Trek had an episode of the people that had a blue face and a
Oh,
black
yeah, that's
face.
right. Yeah, that was a good one.
Okay,
Yeah, that's one
and
of my
then
favorites.
there was the guys that had the blue and the black face on the other side.
Right. They switched.
And they had wars of great things and were killing each other's nations. Does anybody else, do you remember that episode? You're sitting over here laughing. Where did this come from?
Here's another one.
Gene Roddenberry had it right. Come on.
Last thing I just want to say about this is, when you were young, do you remember the kids you used to play with?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you remember what color they were or who they really were or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you would.
I didn't. So, come
For
on.
the most part, you really didn't. You just remembered your friends. You go, yeah, that was so-and-so, that was so-and-so, that was so-and-so. Because we had the choice of whether or not we really wanted to hang with them or not when we were kids.
Oh my God, that's something I've been harping on for so long, because it's like this. People can be haters. Let them be haters, and let them be out and open with it so we can see them for who they are.
Right, yeah. And we've talked about that, and, whether the hater, whatever it is, it's true in so many ways, especially when we look into the politics and politicians. Just be who if we could actually see who these people are, wouldn't life be nice when it comes to making these decisions?
Absolutely. Just think of the corporations that would fall if we all stood together. Because if you don't buy from a corporation, and neither does anybody else in your neighborhood and the neighborhoods of every other city and state, that place is going to fall. That's just like when we had the bailout. Hey, how do we get growth? Things come and go. That's the way. That's the way it works.
Movement.
Do you remember when I was a kid?
Well, we just went all different directions.
When I was a kid, you pulled up to
Shocking.
the gas station and it rang the bell.
Yes.
Two guys would come out.
Check your oil.
Check your oil.
Right, do your
Hey,
windshield.
And you used to tip them.
Hey, Jim, how you doing? They knew who was in the car.
Man, what was that like?
That's when they really had regular gasoline.
Full lead. But we learned from, pull the lead out and stop killing people. We learned, right? So there are some good things that we do learn, and we learn to change the right way too, because we're smart people. Really, we are.
Well, we have the capability.
Right, right.
We all have the software. It's just, are we going to use it or not?
Software, yeah, is it lined up in the right place? Do we format
I
it?
didn't call it hardware.
Thomas Jefferson said that you cannot give up freedom for the ideal of public safety.
That was when he said that too. I mean, it makes sense, because he said that, and then he said a bunch of other things in that speech. But I mean, he nails it.
Right,
and it's so simple.
It is, and think of this: larger government is for exactly that.
Yeah.
For you to lose your freedom so that they can govern you. That's all larger government is for. More people to decide, make more decisions. We don't need that. We need smaller government. Why? So they can't have enough people to stick their nose in our business and take away our freedoms. It's so simple.
That's
And just think, there's only 1 minute left. I could spew on about this forever. How about
that
you
is
guys?
a spicy piece of chicken, Joe.
Wow.
Well, I think Jim was onto something with the 10 Commandments on the back wall of the Supreme Court. I mean, that our opening was to define each and every line and word in the Pledge of Allegiance. And I think if we gave people the chance to ask them a very simple question, well, what does that mean? Like, is that a definition? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to society? And then let them make that decision. Do I or don't I agree with that?
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the personal decision of it is the most important part. Like you just said, like, does that adhere to me? Do I do this or that? How do I react to this? How does it make me feel?
And it doesn't have to be the same between what I agree or what you agree,
but
what anybody else
at the end
agrees.
of the day, if everybody gets an emotional feeling, at the end of the day, everyone's going to stand behind it.
And they're going to be more proud that they were able to be a part of the process.
Yep, exactly. And, it's united stays strong, so that's how it is. So, all right, stay strong and united, and join us next Saturday, 4:05, for more On the Firing Line.
Awesome.